Looks like it's recording already.
Great, thanks everyone for being here. And it's nice to see so many familiar faces. I sometimes I lose track of how many friends Deb and I have made. Oh, it's really amazing. Thanks for coming. I'm happy to tell you that we got some great information to share with you tonight. I'm very pro-volunteer. I feel strongly that over the last couple, 3 years, we've made big strides in making it rewarding to be a volunteer, serve on committees and on the board. And so I'm proud that these volunteers and the staff and True and RPJ have spent a lot of time in what you're about to see tonight. I want to lay out just a couple of ground rules and then give you a little preview of what you're going to hear. First of all, we're not going to be taking any questions until after the presentation, and that's because of the prep that's been done. Pretty sure the 99% of questions. We've been very transparent here. In case you didn't know, the presentation is up on the website already. You can find it. We're not trying to hold anything back or surprise anybody. We got numbers ready tonight. I think the questions are going to get answered. But now obviously at the end, if there's questions that you haven't had answered, we'd love to hear from you. That being said, I do want to make sure that the atmosphere for the meeting tonight is respectful, because these volunteers and staff have spent a lot of time on this presentation. And I want to make sure that whatever questions are asked are appreciative and respectful of the presenters. If you have come here today because you've already made up your mind and you're not really interested in learning any information, want to say something and be heard, this is probably not going to be a very rewarding event. It's really about presenting all the information so that you can walk out of here and make a better decision. Ultimately, you're going to have your vote, and your membership has one vote, and you get to vote however you want, and we'll totally respect whatever your final decision is. All I'm asking is that everybody keep an open mind tonight, and listen to what we have to present, and then form your opinion. Does that seem like some fair, appropriate ground rules for tonight? So first of all, I'm very lucky to be president the second year, primarily because the club is in really good shape financially. This is in part to a lot of directors doing a lot of diligence over the last couple, 3 years. It's due in no small part to management and staff. We are in really good shape financially, and I'm not about that. There's two kinds of capital that I'd like for you to be thinking about that the club has really good strides on controlling. There's a regulatory capital which is necessary to keep the club in the doors open, basically keep the people replace the refrigerator when it breaks and those kind of things. And then the other kind of capital we have is aspirational. It's capital that we're spending on implementing projects to enhance the value of the club. Just a couple of years ago, we weren't able to keep the doors open unless we had members leave and new members come in. In other words, we were counting on turnover in our club membership in order to run the club. I'm very proud to tell you that's pretty much no longer the case. Yeah, sure, there's always an exception here, but in general, we're collecting enough capital from the existing membership that we can keep the doors open and replace the refrigerators in the roof as needed without touching any of the transfer fees. The transfer fees are now exclusively for the purpose of aspirational projects, like we're going to be talking about today. The other thing that you should know is that this is not something that just came up in the last couple of months. The Strategic Planning Committee has been working on this since 2020, and they've looked at all kinds of different options. They talked about moving the maintenance shed up to the #1 parking lot. They've looked at buying land. They've looked at a lot of different options. This is the option that they finalized and decided is in the best interest of the club. So I don't want you to think this is somebody's pet project. Another thing that you need to know is that there's been a study done by the Club Managers Association of America where they benchmark clubs. And it turns out in the country club market, it's a little different than a business. 5% of the clubs are trying to stagnate, keep expenses down, and things the same, and they tend to struggle and eventually go bankrupt. There's another 25% of the clubs that are really trying to spend money and enhance the value of the membership, to grow the initiation fee and give them amenities to the members. Those are the clubs that tend to be most successful in the United States. And then the remaining 50% can't decide who they are and kind of struggle and go back and forth. But I want to be clear that we are going to be talking to you about spending aspirational capital on new amenities and new benefits for the club. And it is because we want to remain in that 25% of clubs that are growing and increasing the membership value. I also want to thank some of my presidents who are here for the work that they did in deciding to do the remodel in 2016. I think it's fair to say that that has really been a great thing. We currently have a cell list of 30 people, and that is not the case with every club in the Bay Area. There's a lot of them themselves. We are doing a good job at this club. We're in good shape financially. We are a desired commodity, and people want us to wait for 2 years to be able to join this club. That's I just want to thank previous presidents and directors who helped make that pretty difficult decision to go through, but I think they did. Also want to talk about Ryan for just 2 seconds. We're very lucky. I've worked with our previous GM, I've worked with Ryan, and I'm very pleased with the progress Ryan is making. There is nobody in this room that is more concerned with financial well-being and the profit and loss of this club than Ryan. He's on it. And I can sleep at night because I don't worry about him burning up our hard-earned dollars on things that
Apparently, these others have a problem.
It's really gotten.
I tried to upgrade whatever.
We are actually in a place where we're not worried about these. Well, so there's just three bullet points that I just want to share with you to think about as you hear all of them. Number one, every committee has had some input into this project. So it's not something that some 4 or 5 rogue people are doing as a project. I want to be clear. It does have the unanimous support of the board and support of. So it's not controversial to us about what we're doing. 2, half of the items that you're going to hear about today have to be done anyway. It turns out that thanks to our lovely caring government and laws that are passing and some buildings that are becoming dilapidated and they fall down every day, we're going to have to do these projects anyway. So we figure as long as we got to do these projects, why don't we realize the synergies of having contractors on site and have some fun stuff done for us at the same time. You'll hear what those obligatory projects are versus the aspirational ones. And then finally, I want to be clear, there's no assessment. We are not asking for you to give us money. The vote that you're going to hear about at the end is to expand the debt limit that you're letting the state. And you're also going to receive a plan of how we're going to pay it back. We're not asking for money. That's the good news. We're the winners in this because we want to enhance the value of the membership. We want to grow the initiation fee. We want to make expand our enjoyment of the club. And we're basically doing it without asking you guys for any money. So please, everyone, give Ryan your attention and thank you for being here tonight.
So I'm just gonna kind of hit a few big points that are still sitting out there. I don't know if solar project. So there's been big conversation about what's going on there. So we are scheduled to start breaking ground at the end of August on the solar project that'll be in the lower parking lot. So I'm trying to keep you all kind of up to date on that timing. We're probably about a 2-month plan. So by the end of the year, we should have the full solar project up and going. So that's going to save us from the bottom line, which you see in the 8-year plan a little later of some of those savings that we're going to take from the operational side and those capital side. new carts. Hopefully you all enjoy the new carts. They are little, I think the word was happy. Actually, I think they're flat out quick, which is kind of fun at the same time. So new carts are here, super excited about them. Please take care of them while you're out there. But forward to you. Generators, generators have been a huge topic of conversation since I've been here. I'm happy to say that one of the two generators are in. So the maintenance building, which is our backup system for irrigation, which runs all the satellites on the golf course, that generator is in. The big generator for the pumps is on its way. So it's here, paid for, we are ready to go. All we're just waiting is for that to be delivered. And that'll actually be a portable unit that is on wheels, which helped this process a little bit more because we didn't have to go out and put that around. So that's on its way to us, so we're very excited about that. I'm sure you've all seen Penelope and Chipper and which we named the last one Bertha. So those three are currently out on the golf course. Stephen and I almost on a daily basis have a conversation about how they're doing, quality cut, issues that are coming up from a technical side, not actually from a mowing side. So we're actually working on those. So we'll have some more information coming out on that pretty soon as we continue through this testing process. As Chip said, we are in a really good financial position. Right now, we're 39% ahead of budget, which is about $165,000 and an NOI line. That's fabulous. When I walked in the door a year ago, just over a year ago, 250 behind the budget, if I remember correctly. So we've made some huge progress in managing the operation. And my team will tell you, I say it all the time, control your controllables. There's certain things we can control, there's certain things we can't. But if we can control it, we're going to monitor it, we're going to do that. Eddie and the team have done a really good job. We've got a flat report that's just coming out for the team. So it kind of gives them a look of those controllables on a daily basis. Happy and sad at the same time. We went 3.5 months, we got a resignation. That's super good, right? So it depends on how you look at that, right? The finance team says, oh, capital, the operations team is like, hey, we're doing our job, right? It's from a retention standpoint. So we're always going to have some turnover at some point. And the good thing about the turnover that we've had is I said this at my staff meeting this morning in the Republic of California. So they're leaving California. It's not something that we've actually done here at the club. So which makes me super happy from a team perspective. 12 new social memberships this year, and we currently still have a waiting list of 30, which is right. So for us as we're continuing to grow the club, whether it's from a capital perspective, whether it's from a long-term look, that is the goal that I have as the membership team every single day. That number is going to be somewhere between that 20 and 30, 35 number. That's the perfect kind of number that we need to sit in. We get over 30, the time gets long. Want to back it, we get under that 20 number. That's what I don't see. That's my life. That's when I start to get a little anxious. So, but we're in a really good spot right now. Our pipeline is really good. So we're very, very excited about kind of the future of where we're going with the club. So we're going to turn this back over to Don and start going through the presentation, and then we'll take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I'm sure we have all those people on. Yeah. Oh, check it out. Incredible crowd out here today. Not expecting to see what it looks like, but you know, we're not that talented. So what we want to address today is this project, well. But before we get there, a lot of people have asked over time, what does the board do? How do you make your decisions? What are your guidelines? The reality is it's on the website. It's our vision statements. How do I put this? How about this? Okay, this is perfect. The board is dedicated to honoring the mission, vision, and the strategic plan. That's what we do. When we create policies, we implement procedures, we look at projects, we do this in a financially responsible way. But this is the guidelines. So when we look at Contra Costa Country Club, obviously a private club, the primary focus is a premier golf experience, the family-friendly, social and drinking environment. Mission is to really invest in our future to optimize member satisfaction and shareholder value. We're dedicated to this, to consistently deliver superior and quality personal service while offering the finest golf, recreational, and social programs. The strategic plan recognized, as you all did because we all adopted this, that you're a golf club operating in a country club environment. What is, do I have feedback there? A little bit, okay. You guys been able to hear me all right? All right, the reality is, we look to our best asset, which is our golf program, our golf course, has been our practice facility. So as we go forward in this presentation, please keep this in mind, that what we're proposing here and asking people to consider is consistent with what our vision is, our mission, and our strategic plan. And we're doing it in a financially responsible way. Not asking members right now to say we have to take an assessment. There's no assessment involved. Future transfer fees will pay for this project. Makes a lot of sense to many people. So what do? Just, in the background, you say, well, our problem is our facilities deteriorate a little bit. We have constraints in terms of the size of our range. And so we took a look at it and said, what are our existing conditions? And when we did that, it was eye-opening. It was one of those moments of like, oh my God, we've got a problem. And our problem is that we have a dilapidated maintenance building. We have to comply with state of California laws. And looking at all of that, that's $1.7 million that has to be spent over a relatively short period of time. That $1.7 million is not a small number, it has to be done. But it doesn't really add value. It's like discovering you have termites in your house when you're trying to sell it. You have to fix the problem, but it doesn't increase your value. So we understand we have to do that. But while we're out there creating this disruption to the property, the thought was from strategic planning and a number of committees and boards, I say boards because this goes back over 2 years, is that let's enhance the value of our proposition to our members at Contra Costa. So looking through this, I don't want to necessarily read it to you, but we have a 70-year-old building. We have maintenance, buildings require upgrades and to become state compliant. We have temporary bathrooms that are very expensive because they're leased. They're kind of unsteady. I don't know about you who use them, but it's not terribly pleasant. We have landscaping that's deteriorated and needs to be upgraded. We have another feature out here, which are our safety nets. During a survey about 1.5 years ago, I think it was the #1 concern that the members had, which was safety. Safety from people hitting balls over 17 and over the fence into 17. So that's also a requirement that we take care of. Because that's the problem. The solution is we should do it now with this project and in an economically viable way. This doesn't mean tear it all down. We're looking at putting streets on top and property facilities, strategic planning. We may want to, they said, worked on this, are coming up with a solution. It shouldn't cost us about $250,000 we think today. But does it add value? Yeah, it doesn't. We have to do it. So in examining the existing conditions that we perhaps, as my just said, what else can we do to improve the value of this membership? So I don't know how many of you can see this. And Ryan, if I have the mic, I can move over to this one down. And you can tell we rehearsed this extensively. Okay. For a moment. So this is the project. And it's usually pointing, we have an expanded maintenance building. So what's here, which is the old, car park, is torn down, that's falling down back. And all the equipment and everything will be moved over here. Okay. We have additional car parking because as you'll see in this back, we'll lose some car parking in this area. In terms of the actual facility itself, we'll have a new synthetic T-line, and this synthetic T-line will be twice the existing line, which will allow us to have more players out there at any given time to practice. We will expand the surface, this is the grass area of the range, and that will be increased by over 2 times also. And it will not only be longer, but it will be wider. Why is that important? Well, we can get more people out there at any given time, but perhaps as important is we will be able to use it more during the year. Okay, so we'll be able to use it more people can be out there, and we can use it for a long period of time. This is one of the more exciting areas, which is the new proposed practice green. The 18-hole putting green, about 2.5 times the size of the existing green. It will have an area that's really designed for, we'll call it normal putting, your basic putting practice. It will also have an 18-hole putting course on there. You think about something like those of you who've gone to Abandoned Dunes or Pinehurst, they have kind of what I call it a fun area. And what that does is it brings in the social aspect of this project. We will be able to have putting leagues. People want to come out with their family and friends. It's practical practice, but it is also entertainment. We'll also have a bar area and permanent restroom. So we'll have some food and beverage out there. So basically have refreshment, fun, safety, and I guess relief. We'll have a short, the existing putting area that we have at the range is going to be converted into the chipping green. Okay, so we don't actually have to replace it. We get to use an asset we already have, which therefore, as you all know, keeps the cost down. Indoor, we will have indoor practice center. Now I have to go back over here and change. The indoor practice center will be a 2-bay building that will accommodate. Can you all see this? If you want to take this one, that's just fine.
Perfect.
So that's like my punchline, man.
I know. I think that was your perfect punchline. So the idea of kind of this practice center, entertainment center is twofold. One is for club fitting. So right now, if you've been club fit at the club, it's a little bit cumbersome. Kevin, pretty close, right? Pretty cumbersome. All the stuff's up here. We got to go down the range. I forget something. I fit Dr. Hood, and I think I ran back and forth up here like 4 times trying to find the right shaft to be able to use. So all the fitting equipment will be down, locked, secured inside of this building. Second place is, weather's not so great, we got a place to take golf balls. Third spot is those that are longer, who can't have the opportunity to truly hit a driver. On both ends of this bay, which you'll see in that top right, are simulators. So there's simulators on both sides. So theoretically, wintertime, you're in there, you want to go play a few holes out of Pebble, great, we have that opportunity. So from an operational standpoint, we will have sign-ups for these bays, so you'll be able to sign up, get yourself a 30-minute block, get some golf balls, work on driver, work on longer clubs if you don't have that ability to hit on the driving range. So this is an indoor looking out, so you can see you've got the bay on the right-hand side. Getting out, there's 4 bays, so actually also be able to chip the chipping green from inside of the base also, which will be a huge help as we're kind of working on the bounce. Second is a new social center and restroom. Idea behind this is to give you another spot down on the range. So as Dom said, our restrooms are not great, called the executive restroom, right? Not good long-term financially for the club to have the rented porta potty down at the restroom or down on the driving range. This will have a restroom as well as a bar type setup, kind of similar to operationally that we've been talking internally, is kind of similar to kind of what we get down at the bunker, right? So food is you're out there putting, you're out there in the driving range, you don't have to come back here. Sodas, alcohol, Gatorade, those type of things. So if you're just coming to practice, again, you don't have to stop at the bunker before you go down to the driving range. Second piece is on top is to have a deck. So the deck would actually look down on the putting green. So again, from an operational standpoint, like we have bocce leagues, I foresee us having putting leagues. So get your team together, we'll play different events each week. This putting green is also lit, so we can do this at night. as we're in some of the shoulder season, gets darker a little earlier, we'll have some opportunities for some kind of fun events going down on the driving range. So these are conceptual of kind of what that area would look like. Both of the teaching center and the external of these buildings will match. So, which is the great thing about these code container buildings is that one, they're movable. So from a permanent standpoint, easier. Two is that from an external standpoint, we can make sure that both of those buildings go together cohesively. Now I'm going to turn this back over to Don, and then we'll get in a little bit of the finance side.
Thank you, Ryan. This is my favorite slide because we've already talked about everything on it, and we don't have to spend any time on it outside of the last sentence, which is if we go forward with this project, which is called Player Development and Social Center, we will build membership value and increase our competitive advantage in the marketplace. There will not be another golf facility, golf course in the East Bay that's comparable to Contra Costa Country Club. We should be proud of that. Now let's turn it over to the fun stuff, the financials. Adam and Mike.
Yeah. Okay, so as Chip mentioned, over the last several years, we've been working on an 8-year capital plan for this club. As far as I know, it's not something that's been done in the past to look that far forward in the future. And the focus of the 8-year capital plan is to break out our capital between obligatory capital, which is keeping the court as it is today, keeping the buildings as it is today, and just leaving everything as it is. The sources, for obligatory capital are viewed as our monthly capital. So what we pay on a monthly basis should cover the cost of maintaining our golf course, our facilities, and everything. As you see here at the top, and I'm happy to answer more questions on this, our dues are the source, and then our expenditures are based on an 8-year capital plan, a 30-year capital reserve study that we took out 2 years ago now. And that tells us, here are all of the assets in your club. Here's when you need to replace them over a 30-year period. So in the 8 years you're seeing here, we are covering everything that's in that 30-year capital plan. We're covering the leases for our golf carts. We're covering the leases for our mowers. And that is what you see in the subtitle there that says obligatory surplus or deficit. We are in a good spot there. And then on top of that, we are also using our obligatory funds to pay off the renovation note from 2015. So not only are we going to take on this range project, the goal of our 8-year capital plan is to leave this club debt-free within the next 8 years. That's something that no other club in this area can say. And I would say that none of them have a plan to pay off all of their debt. If the projections that we presented here do come true, we will have a debt-free club in fiscal year 30. So now let's go on to the aspirational side. Breaking out the monthly capital dues that are paid, we also earn 50% on every membership sale that happens. So as members, we own 50% of that transfer fee, and the club earns 50% on the transfer fee. That's what we're using. Those are the aspirational funds that fund the range and social center that we're talking about today. So the assumption here is that we'll have 25 membership transfers per year. That's consistent with our 8-year average. And the price is starting for next year at our current price, $42,500 for a membership. That increases to $50,000 per membership in the rest of the projection period, which is what we expect to be able to add to all of your membership by doing this project. I will say, some people might say 25 per year, that seems high. Right now we have 25 non-junior executives on our wait list. On top of that, we have 41 junior executives that will age out into a full proprietary membership and pay their full transfer fee over the next 8 years. So when you're thinking about that's 200 transfers that we need to fund this project, we have almost 80 of those locked in as we stand here today.
So that means the club needs to go out and sell 120 memberships over the next 8 years. That seems very reasonable to me. It's not an aggressive stance. It's based on historical precedent. It's based on historical turnover levels. And if anything, it's very conservative. One thing to add there is we are in a very strong cash position as we stand today. We have $3 million of cash on our balance sheet. I find it hard to believe that any other club in the area is in such a strong financial position. And that's due to past board practice, past finance committee practice of us holding $500,000 for emergency cash. That cannot be spent on this project. That can only be spent in emergency situations. So don't think of 500,000 going towards this. That will always be sitting on our balance sheet. It's a required reserve as set by our financial policies. On top of that, we have 30 people on our wait list that maybe signed up 2 years ago. Well, the board and the finance committee have the foresight to say we shouldn't be spending capital that members have paid to join our wait list. It's non-refundable. It's the club's property. It's the club's cash. But we should spend that in the years in which those members join our club, and we should be matching that with when they become members. So we could have spent that when we got the cash. Cash in, cash out. That's how a lot of clubs operate. Our finance committee and our board don't believe in that, and we've held that. So we do have over $1 million of cash that we're going to use to fund the start of this project if it's approved by members. From my role as the chair of the finance committee, I'm also on the board. I've been through the 8-year capital plan that we have here. I fully believe in all of the assumptions. I don't think any of them are aggressive. And I think that, we are sitting here today in a very strong financial position and in a good spot to make an investment like this to improve the value of our club.
Thank you, Mike. We want to get to the Q&A as quickly as we can, but let's talk about the next steps. Oops. Again. Next steps. Okay, well, this starts it off with our town hall meeting today. Over the next week, we have a period of just called a member comment period. So to the extent you have questions, thoughts, ideas, please direct them. That's what we're getting to. That's what we're getting to. So, no, that's number 3 on that list. So anyway, if you have questions, thoughts, ideas, please direct them to Ryan. Please read this presentation when you have time. And so that will happen over the next week. And then we're going to go to the membership vote. And we're hoping to have a membership vote during the period of August 10th to August 23rd. So we're encouraging members to vote. We need half of the members to vote, and we need 50% of those voting members to pass this. The basic, we would hope to have the results by August 25th. We know people aren't very patient, so we want to take that into account. Not a lot of people are able to vote and pay attention to what's going on here. But the basic question at the end of the day is going to be a yes or no. Yes or no, are we willing to increase our debt limit by $2.7 million? Okay, and that's $2.7 million that Mike has talked about that we paid over the next 8 years from transfer fees. Okay, so in conclusion, this new center will increase the value of your membership. It will increase the safety of the practice area. It's a state-of-the-art, best-in-class practice and teaching facility, best in the East Bay. It increases Contra Costa's competitive advantage in its relevant market. Funded from transfer fees, so it's not come out of your pocket, our pocket, I should say. And approximately half the costs are unavoidable. They will happen no matter whether we pass this or not. This enhances the social atmosphere for Contra Costa members. And at the end of the day, what we said in our neighborhood, it'll be wicked fun. So thank you so much. And now we'll like to
All right, well, I'd like to thank the board and all their hard work, committees and all their hard work, kind of getting us to this point, coming in a year ago. And we have this range project's been going on for, I think we talked about this morning, I think 3, almost 4 years. And then to get us to this point, one of the things for myself, getting us to this point is making sure fiscally it made sense. So the team and I and the board and finance committee, we have, when I say push numbers, we've pushed numbers. On that slide that you saw with the 8-year plan, we have like 6 or 7 different variations of that, depending on what our debt was, depending on, we've got one of refining these loans if it gets to that point. So I know there's been some FAQs that I sent out as kind of part of this that what would happen. Well, the plan is, and for those of you that know me, when there's a plan in place, we're gonna go hit it. So the plan is we stay on this plan and we move forward, but that's what we offer. And that. So we are going to open up the Q&A for those that are on.
Just to remind everybody, just in case you got here late, if you're on Zoom and you have a question, you can type it in the chat box, that's fine. If you're here in person and you have a question, all I ask is that we respect the dignity of the presenters and the many people who put time into this project. And again, this is an opportunity to get information. This is not a town hall where we're really interested in you telling everyone which way you're going to vote. Okay, it's about getting information so you can make a better decision. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, here we go.
For voting, will you only allow proprietary members to vote?
Yeah, that's required by the bylaws. There's 1 vote for membership. Yeah, that's in the bylaws.
So I'll kind of hit that really quick at the same time. So it'll be exactly how we've done the last 2 votes, whether that was for board,
Bylaws.
it's bylaws. So it'll be done through the website. If you log on to the website, you'll see on there acceptance. So all of that will come up. You'll be able to see that on the 10th of the month, first thing in the morning.
I don't know if I need a, my question is, when, assuming that everybody loves this project and goes forward with permits and, construction process, are you gonna do this in phases, or how long is this gonna take?
Yeah, so the goal of this is that this will be ready by Centennial year 2025.
And minimize disruption to the members as well, but keep the courts open while it's
The maintenance facility, the main maintenance building is under 20 years old. Pretty surprised at 1.4 million. Building you want to take down, is proposing to take some. It's a very old cart farm. Can you give us a better breakdown on what that $1.4 million that we have to spend anyways? I'm not debating that. No, that's good. Much maintenance facilities, pretty high. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the question for those, if you didn't hear it on Zoom, is cost of the maintenance facility. So there's a lot that's going into that maintenance facility. Some of you may or may not know, as of right now, again, the Republic of California is telling us that any gas or diesel vehicle under 25 horsepower will not be able to be sold in the state of California. So for Stephen, that is about 90% of our equipment that is going to have to do not, and it's not just us. There is not a single maintenance facility in the state of California that is ready for that. So basically what that means is we would set up this new building like a cart barn. So from an electrical standpoint, there's a lot that goes into that. So cart barns, every single unit is actually on its own circuit. So huge circuits, huge breakers to make sure that Stephen has the ability to have this equipment that we're going to be required to have moving forward. Hence why 6 months ago, we started looking at the mower project, right? So that's us thinking ahead of what's coming in the future. So that is a big part of that. Stephen, what's the square foot of that building?
Existing,
No, the one we're gonna put in.
about 4,000 square feet.
About 4,000 square feet. So that's gonna replace the old one, which is up top, right next to the parking lot, and that's what's gonna be replaced down there. That is also adding in, bays down in the lower parking lot for sand, those deliveries that I'll tell you, Stephen gets mad at me all the time, like, sand down there again, like crap. So we're actually gonna have bins down there that will actually house the sand and items that are delivered. So all of that is kind of part of that. Oh, yeah, good, that's perfect. Covered maintenance areas, material storage, new kind of storage building, it's about at its age, required by the state. Demo, which is not easy to demo an old building. Soil testing, paving, all of that kind of rolls into that maintenance. The one that's up top, but that's where the bike lane is going.
It's,
Well, it's getting to its plan. I mean, that, if you've been in that building, it's not one of the, yeah, it's not a great building. I mean, it's to the point that we're gonna have to start putting some money into it to continue to secure it on the outside.
What was the balance of the remaining note on the 2015 note?
Yeah, about 2.1.
Well, when it's paid off, it's 2.1, does it?
2.3, yeah. 2.1 to pay off the old loan. Right now it's about 2.3 and we're continuing obviously to pay that down. Karina, we have one online. What is the impact on parking? So we kind of talked about that in the FAQ. It is going to decrease the parking actually at the range. But we are required by the county and the state to have a certain number of parking spots, and we will still be within that number that are required by.
yeah, there'll be more parking down below where a solar panel, which we expect to be more popular parking spaces, so your car doesn't take in the middle of the summer. Seriously, in fact, when Round Hill put their panels up, all of a sudden people are a lot more happy to park further down the hill than Round Hill.
Yeah, and one of the other questions is it going to be solar as part of this project down on the driving range? No, solar is not actually right now built into that project itself. Something we will look at potentially with the maintenance building redo with the electrical needs, but as of right now, that is not part of the current plan.
Hi, couple of things, Richie Adams, and I just want to say a few things before I get into the range, but I want to say thank you to the Strategic Planning Committee, the Golf Committee, and the board for doing all this volunteer work. They don't get paid. And they're doing all this work. They're members like us, the Golf Club, and they're doing a fabulous job, and I think, you know, we owe it to them to look at this project, because this is 3 years worth of work, and these guys and ladies come in on their days off and the days after work, and they spend all that time up here, hours and hours and hours, working to make this place the best country club. Because right now it's a golf course. And we want to be a country club, right? And the only way to be a country club is to have the best service and the best facilities. And this facility, when people walk in with Noreen, potential members, and they look at that new facility, they're going to say, I'm joining. I don't even care about the rest. And here's the other good part of that, right? Every member, every proprietary member, that increases the value of your membership. We could get 60 or 65 or more from folks coming in because it will be warranted. And, you know, I play in a lot of these other clubs, playing the NCJ, we just played Sequoia today. And, you know, we go to all these clubs and a lot of people, they come into clubs like Roundhill, they drive it on their cars, they stay, they have dinner, they have really no other choice, right? Our folks live everywhere. They don't live in the course here. So we have to find a way to make them stay, make them have dinner here, right? And make them enjoy the facilities and to bring us into that next level where we're a country club. I think this is the best project and I think it's awesome. It's my opinion. So doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, no questions. One of the things we had a try to skip to the questions. We appreciate the support, but I don't want this to feel persuasive. I want folks to feel like they're getting a balance. Turn the story here. Yes.
Jeff Riley, and yeah, I agree that we owe the city kudos for the amount of time they spent working on this project, 3 years. But by the same token, I think to take 3 years of work in a very complex situation and making a decision about spending quite a bit of our money at some point in time probably should allow for more than a week for the membership to consider it. So I think having the vote in 1 week's time.
You have 3 weeks. Where voting closes on the 20th.
We are starting, we're having a week to consider it in order to exchange information, questions with Brian. And I also have a question for the feedback, questions for Brian. If those questions and comments are going to be shared with the rest of the members, or they're just going to be shared?
First of all, I want to be clear, it's not a week, okay? It's 23 days, 22, no, it's 21 days, okay? The board discussed the ability to give plenty of time, especially during the holidays, summer break. We understand that people are traveling, we spend time with their family, and 1 week is unacceptable. You've got until the 23rd, okay? And then, yes, as far as Q&A, I want to post everything. I want complete transparency on the numbers, on the presentation. Everything's supposed to be on the website. If something needs to be up there, contact me or Ryan, because I don't want to hide any information or make it feel like we're trying to control the flow of information.
Yeah, I will post the questions that come in, I'll answer you directly, but then I'll keep a list of all those. We might actually just put them in the weekly approach. I mean, it's probably a good spot.
Thank you guys again for the information. I probably get more brain balls than any other member of your class. What you guys have shown is, I think, incredible from kind of a T perspective. Getting to travel and seeing new golf courses, resort golf courses. The actual area that you hit into is world class. What we're creating from the T perspective is world class. Has there been, I would say, a vision into tweaking or enhancing some of the areas that we're hitting into? Right now we have $20 signs from 10, 20, 30, 40. Now we're looking at doing 8x8 rounds, after they're cut out to hit in. I've never seen more kids here hitting balls and juniors hitting balls, making it more fun.
It's good.
And not doing it very expensive, but finding ways to enhance the actual area we're hitting.
We're definitely not going to do any more sand bunkers, because those were a real nightmare to pull the balls out of. So it's a big question.
So I mean, there's look online at Arizona State's practice facility, Lake Merced's new facility. They're doing some things that are very inexpensive, but making the range. Right now we have 3 huge targets that's not really a target. Right? So I would take it one step further. We're going to have this incredible facility to hit off of. We need to have something that matches what we're hitting into. And then I think the second question is more of an execution standpoint. I think the frustration that a lot of members have is, when are we hitting off the grass? When are we not hitting off the grass? And I think building a schedule so the members that understand, okay, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'm on the grass. That's set in stone. And so when we come out here, we know these are mat days, these are grass days, and it's a program instead of, okay, for 3 months, we're not on the grass.
So very good. Thank you. These are great comments and questions.
Yeah, no, that's actually really good. Some of those are operational, right? So Stephen, I think I've got mental note of that, but yeah, having that idea. Mostly, I came from Tennessee, and University of Tennessee's practice facility is probably one of the coolest places I've ever been at. So we'll kind of take some of those ideas back in, and then planning, that's part of what we do from a planning session. It's trying to get a little bit more future, so you kind of know when we're going to be on grass. And we're going to have double the amount of grass that we have right now, which is, unfortunately, we're kind of compact as it sits, but with this new project, we'll have about twice as much grass.
Hey, Ryan, thank you. To the committee, thank you very much. This is a lot of work that you guys got to put in here. If we don't do this, my question is how much disruption are we going to have with the maintenance facility change up on the practice facility?
Good question.
And all of that's going to happen versus if we do the whole thing.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah, so that's as we're working through committee and working through board and all the conversations, that was one of the big things we talked about, right? So if we try to piecemeal this, so theoretically, I'm just going to say worst case that the membership does not approve this project. Now it's going to be more torturous, right? Because we're going to have certain things that are going to happen over a period of time instead of doing the entire project all at once.
Yeah,
Answer the question.
Yeah, but I want to just be really balanced here. It's a really good question. I'm glad you asked. We haven't worked out a detailed plan. I promise you, if this gets turned down, we will come up with a plan to minimize disruption to the members, if that's what the members want. But I just want to be clear that it's gonna have to be done, and as long as we've got contractors and workers out here, it just seems like a complete missed opportunity. You know, last missed opportunity we had was when one of the, maintenance shacks burned down. I really feel bad, like, man, we should have stepped back and had a plan in place, and maybe we could have really done some cool things there, but we just, you know, we just went through the motions. We didn't ask the members to approve a plan, and I don't wanna make that mistake again. But we're gonna minimize the disruption if you turn this plan down. I promise we will not make it painful intentionally for any member.
Oh, that makes my life harder.
Yeah.
So just a clarification, John Clears. It sounded like, it sounded like we have a 30-year backlog of things that have to be done in the next 30 years. And it sounded like over the next 8 years, we were gonna get all of that done in the next 30
I
years.
heard that too, so good question. So and I want to thank Bill Stevens, he's really been one of the key people to get some of these things going. I mean, there's been a lot of people, I don't want to ignore anyone, but there's been a lot of work. And so we have literally a spreadsheet that outlines everything that needs to be replaced and when in the next 30 years. This 8-year plan addresses all those things that must be done in the next 8 years, as well as covering the repaying the debt for both the redesign in 16 and the project that we're talking about today. Yes, after 8 years, there's going to be 22 more years of stuff that needs to be done, but you know, we'll be refreshing that 30-year plan every year. We're going to keep it updated, and you know, by the way, it's just a plan. And so if we find out that the elevator over there doesn't need to be replaced in 2030, well, then we'll make a note of that and we'll push that off and save some money. But I want to be clear, we're not paying for 30 years of improvements in 8 years. Sorry, they're not improvements, they're maintenance, sorry.
Hey, Chuck, it's Joe Spiegler. I'm not nearly as articulate as Richie, but I will try. First of all, thank you to all the countless people who worked on this. And spent time away from the families to put this together, which seems like a project that's very core to the mission of the club. It is, and does so in a very fiscally responsible way. And I think enhances the safety. I'd like to hear more about our current, you know, potential liability. I say this as a lawyer and a compliance officer. What kind of liabilities are we facing if we do nothing from a safety standpoint?
I don't want to talk about that in a whole lot of detail. Really. Yeah, well.
So notice how I let you have that one, and I
Yeah,
let
yeah. We care about the safety of our members, and we intentionally have done some things to, like the signs and education, and we care about the safety of our members. And it's not a coincidence that we are addressing that as part of this project. I'll just leave it at that.
That was very well done, Jim.
Dale.
Yes. My name is Dale Weatherford. How is Troon going to be involved in this process over the next few years? Because yes, I'm interested in their ability to provide us with economy of scale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it gets to fall on my shoulders, which is kind of fun. 20 plus years with the company and multiple projects in this world. So one, we've already used those resources. So Ron Spain and Jeff out of our agronomy department have been super influential in kind of helping us get to this point right now. Now, as we're moving forward, they're also going to be the ones that are going to look through the contracts, make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. And then Jeff or Ron will actually be on site as we're going through this project.
They've been involved and they will continue to be involved.
Hi, Chris. Well, first of all, thanks guys. I know we're not supposed to say our opinions, but I'm super excited hoping this goes forward. I'm a golf freak, so I would love for, aging the whole putting green and all that. But just kind of looking at the mission, and seeing how part of it is, being able to enhance the recreational, enjoyment of the membership as part of the mission. And I guess, obviously this is kind of how the strategic planning committee and the board has decided to put a plan together to spend the aspirational capital. I guess my question is was there, I guess when I think of other recreational opportunities, I would think the two that I would come to mind would be gym and tennis and or
I
pickleball.
can assure you that.
And that's what I'm asking is what are the other ones that we explored and what was the like deciding factor being like, we can't do that and we need to do this?
Hi, John Walls, been the chair of the strategic planning committee since it was reformed in 2020. You know, the main thought of the strategic plan is, as Don said, golf centric. You know, we're a golf club with a capital G. The golf course and the golf facilities are the top priority of the golf experience. So those were, you know, in terms of the priority list, what we looked at. The other is return on investment. What are the projects that we can do that show a clear return on investment? We think this is the one that has the clearest path to a financial positive for the club in terms of the debt payoffs and all the things that we talked about. But, you know, the increase in initiation fees, the reduction in certain operational costs, it has an ROI. We have talked, and the club has spoken about court sports for years, decades even. And I think the truth is there's just no appropriate place on our property where we could put a tennis court. That's just the assessment that we have based on just read about pickleball lawsuits in neighborhoods and whatnot. We just don't think that, you know, putting a pickleball court 2 doors down from Peter Lowenstein, for example, is just never going to fly. And what was, you mentioned one other one. Oh, fitness center. Fitness center has been looked at. Again, does it have a return on investment? Does it add value to the membership? Does it raise operational costs? You know, because people want to work out on fitness at all hours of the day and so on. So it has been looked at, and those were things that are, you know, that lower down. I would say that the area in the middle after this project and before those would be looking at the clubhouse facilities again.
Besides the ROI, which is really important. I mean, we really do look at, are we going to get our money back if we spend this? I mean, that's the way I've been looking at it, and that's the way almost all the committee members have been looking at it. I mean, like the clubhouse, you know, we could add some rooms to the clubhouse, but it's really difficult to see where's the return on investment going to be. Our clubhouse it's not the greatest clubhouse in the world, I'm sorry, but it's good enough, and enhancing it and spending a lot of money on it, it's just tough to make the numbers work. Same thing with the health or the gym. We'll still look at those things, but this has a return on investment that's attractive. That's why we're proposing it now. Okay, we've only got a couple minutes left because we do need to stop at like one last question from Mike Hastings. Okay. Okay, we got to go quick here.
All right, this is a two-part question. John, having been involved in 2 very large, long-term projects,
Yes, past President Hastings.
is there any effort besides handing off your report and everything to include a section on the way that future large projects can be accelerated and so that we're doing things a little bit more efficiently and not taking 4 years to come to this point? That's part one.
Okay, that's a good question.
Okay. And then the second part is that what I just heard from the strategic committee was that there is some thought going into about changes and improvements to the clubhouse. And that there's also, if we go back and look at the projects that are being taken care of over the next 8 years, the clubhouse is not included in that or anything there. And neither is anything related with, I don't know if it's Steve, but improving the water to the golf course.
That's not, yeah.
And
But
so,
Mike, I'll let Ryan answer let me answer the first part. First part of that. It's a great question. I want to recognize John and his tenacity because he went through something called COVID, and it was a real, it caused a lot of slowness
slowed things down dramatically to the point that he wasn't even sure if the committee should be meeting. So I'm very pleased with the speed, because you can go too fast on these things too. I'm very pleased with the speed that SBC is operating. But let me turn the other part of the question over to Brian.
Yeah, so for first part of that, are there clubhouse updates as part of that 30-year plan? That answer is yes. So that is part of it. It basically hits every single part of our operation. There have got to be, no, these are maintained, which is why it's in the obligatory and not in the aspirational side. So there are updates as kind of part of that, report. Right, so future stuff, and why it took so long, getting the guy coming in and trying to figure all this out, I don't think you're ready financially. To be very honest with you.
And another thing I want to say about Ryan, he has a great track record for doing projects. I don't think I mentioned that before, but he's done many projects at several other clubs. You know, when you give him a chunk of money from the obligatory capital plan to say, replace cooking utensils in the kitchen, he's not just throwing money at it. He's thinking, okay, I've got this money. What can I do with it? How can we make the utensils even better than they were before? It's not like we're just coming in and replacing things with exactly the same piece that was there before. We're always thinking of ways to work smarter and upgrade and use technology, even though the money is coming out of the obligatory fund.
Yeah, and I'll kind of go back to the Troon conversation. That's why we use those Troon preferred vendors at the same time. So, economy of scale. So kind of going back to that question, as these capital items are coming up, that is also where I'm going is looking at it through our preferred vendors. All right, we got two more.
Many, if not most, annual pundits suggesting some say soft landing, others say it's suitably more severe. I've been a member for 28 years, and many of us long-term members will remember as 2008, 2009. We were bleeding members and money. I'm just curious, I'm sure you are, but I'm not that anyway. Have you baked these into your assumptions?
There are certainly contingency plans in place if we were to fall into a recession. The original debt plan for the renovation was to be paid off by 2035. Our optimistic plan here, and also conservative, while we're going along with that, is paid off in 2027. If we need to save that $2 million and not pay it off in 2027, we have that availability of cash. Do we have to pay off the range project in 7 years? Normally you pay off debt over the useful life of the asset that you're acquiring. This range project is going to provide us with benefits for 20, 30 years, and we're paying it off over an aggressive 7-year amortization. So there are certainly contingency plans in place if we were to go into worse financial conditions.
I would just tell the whole membership, our finance committee and the operation of this club is run extremely conservatively, almost to the point of frustration for me sometimes. So there's a group of people that could weather a recession. They're on our committee. Okay. One last question, and then we got to wrap up. Yes, Dean.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off what was just talked about, would it be possible to post the reserve study or some summary level explanation of what we've got out there in front of us?
Oh yeah, I would like, sure, we can, if it's not there already.
Because contrary to what was said earlier, we did have a reserve study back in 2013, and one of the things that I'm interested in is what's happened to the irrigation projects
That's
in that.
I mean, that is definitely being evaluated.
Because I didn't see any numbers in your presentation.
No, if there weren't.
Major irrigation.
That's considered part of obligatory capital. We have to replace the irrigation systems as they fail.
Right, and that's what I'm.
And that's in the plan.
Rolling off of that.
But it's not true that that's not $100,000 a year.
Well, that didn't sound like the number I remember in the old study. We're talking millions.
Yes, and we decided to approach that in a different way.
Well, that would be.
Yeah, we're happy to post.
For a level of confidence.
Sure.
We know what the plan is.
Let's do that.
And then,
Can I hit the irrigation really quick? So we actually have an irrigation consultant that'll be on property, giving us a wall-to-wall irrigation audit of our current system right now. So useful life that is currently left to include certain areas that might need to be replaced, valves, connectors, certain main lines, certain other parts of that irrigation, but that's why we have this consultant coming in.
Well, and it helps make the decision if we spend money on this, it's the nice to have, or we have money later to, for the big. The answer is major project. And then on the specific details of this project, you prefer that we send in our, like, we have a half a dozen questions, like I'm interested in the putting green out front, all the other things, parking and.
Yeah.
All of your questions. So that others will know what the answers are. That's
Correct, yeah.
And then the last comment, just in defense of what Jeff Riley mentioned, the last time we borrowed $2.5 million, we had a 6-month period where we had focus groups and the membership was involved. So when you're talking about 3 weeks, 21 days, for some of us, that's short. I mean, I appreciate the work you've done. I mean, this is a terrific presentation. I think we've learned a lot has been explained, but just to put it in perspective, the last time we did this, we didn't do it 3 weeks, we did it 6 months. Okay, point taken.
All right, thank you everyone for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, we've got an event, Games and Booze. Hopefully you play and enjoy the music and the food. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Rob. Feel better.